Is Sniper Elite the one versus all game you've been looking for? Is it the best hidden movement game on the market? Let's answer those questions and let me tell you why it's unique, what you should know about it, who's it's right for, and a little bit of what Operation Kraken, the newest expansion, is bringing from Rebellion Unplugged. Let's go. So the concept of Sniper Elite sounds really complex. And with any one versus all game, the main worry that I have is an overhead situation as you're learning the sniper, as you're learning the defenders, as you're trying to maneuver across the board in general. Because a lot of games nowadays, when you have these different elements and some asymmetry between factions, it increases the density of the rulebook almost exponentially. And so Sniper Elite does a paradigm shift on that dynamic in bringing you, well, the complexity of the dynamics on the board, but not with the thickness of the rule book, which is an overarching joy. Now, we're going to break it down, and we're going to start with the sniper. The sniper is a hidden movement style with your own unique board, mimicking a smaller version of the board that is in play below. And then what you're doing on a turn-by-turn basis is you're just drawing your path to illustrate where your sniper is going. And the objective then is to take one of your two chosen objective cards at the beginning of the game, randomly drawn, corresponding to the number points on the board in the first place, that you just have to essentially end up at. And it sounds really simple and straightforward. And in theory, it is, because you move, you load out, and you get an additional action. And you only play this over 10 rounds as the defenders are slowly encroaching and encircling you, tightening the noose until you either complete or lose. And so all you're doing on that turn-by-turn basis is creeping along, utilizing the stealth that is your advantage to get to where you need to, and eventually, intermittently, shooting with a very nice, unique line of sight driven bag building element. And that's the game in a nutshell from the sniper side of things. On the opposite side of things, the defenders. As you can see here laid out, I have 3 different sets of 3 German defenders, each with an officer and 2 units. They have special abilities. They also correlate to the sideboard here in the round tracker that you can see, as they also only get 2 actions per rounds that's available to them. Things like deploying, spotting, sweeping, or attacking. Because unlike the sniper, which is limited to 2 hits, meaning all you have to do is hit the sniper twice with your attack and you win. Or you time them out. You play this cat and mouse game to encircle and ensnare, and you don't even actually need to hit them. You can just wait them out over the 10 rounds, which we'll talk about in a second how I feel about that as well, in order to achieve your victory. And if your troops are killed, you can, as I mentioned with the additional action, deploy them back to the board. Though, as you can see on the sideboard, the sniper having 2 objectives, like I mentioned, which are going to correlate to certain color combinations of the board in the first place. You get to choose one of the locations that does not correspond to the color of the objectives that you have drawn. So if I didn't draw any red objectives, I could start over here at this icon. If I drew a red objective, it would be out of bounds for me. Now, the other dynamic that goes along with this is the looting action as a dynamic interface of what you're going to be doing, those loadout cards that I mentioned. The asymmetric special abilities of the sniper drawn through use of cards, which will not only give you ways of distracting with the rock here, but also sound masking, and additionally silencing to give you a better chance of actually getting your objective achieved with better, well, resources in terms of hitting your opponents. And all of these are acquired via the loot action. You draw 3, keep 1. But you can only do that on the additional objective spots that do not correlate to the ones that you have drawn. And consequently, you don't necessarily want to do that too much, because your opponents see that you're drawing cards. And so they know you are on a numbered position. And therein lies the dynamic, because as you make noise, adjacency is going to be the key. They know which of the defenders will hear the noise, but you can't tell exactly where they're coming from, because you can even end up in the same space as your opponent, but they have to know it in the first place. Now, the other main crux of this game is the shooting element, the aiming with the bag modification, drawing and building, if you will. As your sniper gets line of sight towards your enemy, now again, your miniature would not normally be here, but only when revealed, you then count the spaces that are including the enemy, and then you draw at least that many number of tokens, meaning 1, 2. And that means that I need to draw at least 2 aim tokens in order to hit my enemy. Now, I announce how many I'm drawing, and I have to show them to my opponents, but if I don't get the number of aim tokens equal to the distance, well, I miss. But the other problem is you're going to draw other tokens along the way as well, including the misfire tokens, the recoil tokens, as well as the noise tokens. And so the more tokens you draw, the farther away you shoot from, the more you're going to potentially have to take out your enemies before they get close to you, more you're going to misfire or even give away your position in that regard, because again, they'll know when you hit them as they get knocked off the board. Now, I mentioned that each of the German defenders has an asymmetric ability that is utilizable, and so these will be laid out that you can remember as you're deploying them, as you're attacking, and as you're even placing a dog token out to help you. And those are only utilizable so many times in the game, so again, timing is most important. Now, I didn't mention, but you have obstacles that get in the way of line of sight. You have water terrain here. You will have tunnels. You will have air ducts. You will have a little bit of everything to give you a little bit of a difference, and this and the other side of the board, which offers a completely different dynamic. Now, Operation Kraken is bringing us a few new twists, more lockable doors in terms of tokens, as well as some very nice miniatures here in the form of vehicles. And these vehicles are also going to offer you a different dynamic. You can see I actually have a tank here. This is going to be driving around, potentially not only maneuvering your troops faster and in different ways, but it's also being able to be taken out by the sniper in the first place, killing anyone inside, but also offering more protection as it has armor to provide a little bit of a better balance in terms of getting taken out for your defenders in the first place. Operation Kraken also comes with 2 additional boards that I've got represented by the snipers boards here. And what we've got going on different terrain-wise and dynamic-wise in this one is you actually have reinforced walls that, again, obstruct your line of sight. And then you have a 3-tiered system with ladders and vents that your respective defenders and sniper will be utilizing. Secondly, we have a village. And the village offers a different vantage both from the attacker and the defender, if you will. The sniper is going to have multiple points of egress or entry in this situation, unlike the 1 point in each of the colored objectives on the original maps. It's also going to be where these armored cars, not necessarily tanks, right, are going to be driving and be available in this unique scenario. And so that is the dynamic that you're going to be having along with those locked doors that I mentioned, right? Okay, so now that I've given you the brief overview, as a 1 versus all aficionado, how do I feel about this as a very, unique mechanic, as well as a very unique spin on things comparatively to the other games in this genre and mechanistic approach? 1, who is this right for? If you want an easier entry point into any of these types of games mechanistically, this is the one I would argue that you should be looking at hands down. This has been the easiest to understand, but not losing the depth of the complexity of the strategy. The one thing I will say, and I will caution, is that with only 1 person on the defender side, managing 3 squads, can be a little bit much. At the same time, it wasn't at all in our games because you only get 2 actions with them between your troops. So how you choose to utilize the varied actions that are at your disposal, again, the depth is on the play of the board rather than the rule book, which is a huge emphasis of mine. Secondly, if you want a 1 versus all game or any type of game like this head to head with any sort of skirmish mechanic like this, the length of this game, playing under an hour or even less than that, depending on how smooth and how quickly you actually take your actions, given that it is very limited on a turn-by-turn basis, like I mentioned, it is absolutely awesome. I do not like games that overstay their welcome, and this one I feared was going to, which ties me into the next point of one of the big pros of this game. I mentioned it earlier with the 10-round dynamic here with this board tracking things. I love it. I love it. It's the tension. It gives you the tension there because otherwise this could be a very, very slow game of cat and mouse, which would be very off putting. You could drag this thing out going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, like you end up with some other games where you just feel anticlimactic. I like the bag building mechanism here. It works. Is it frustrating? Hell yes. Does it actually do what you need it to do at the same time? Yes, absolutely. The line of sight, even with the obstacles and the terrain, is not overly complicated. It's intuitive. Everything about these mechanics, both in the base game as well as with the additional armored cars and the additional layers of dynamics with the maps, it works. It doesn't overcomplicate things. The expansion here with Operation Kraken, now I can't compare it to the other expansions that are out there already, it just gives you more of the good thing. The biggest criticism I would argue is that, as the sniper, I want more of these loadout cards, right? I want to use all of the cool abilities that are present for me to be able to manipulate things. At the same time, how they've done the incorporation of these loadout cards also has to be applauded because it requires you to, again, change what you're doing because you're looking at it as the defender and seeing what they're doing. And you don't always see hardly anything. You might not see anything on your turn whatsoever. And then it's your turn. But you see them drawing cards. It immediately, again, from a deductive standpoint, from a noise adjacency as you're spreading out, not too thin, but also slowly encircling, it's just enthralling. And that's the best compliment I can give this. This is, for me, period, right now, the best one versus all game I've ever played. This is also the best hidden movement game I've ever played. And I don't say that lightly. So that is my thought on Sniper Elite. Again, I went into this as someone who has no affiliation with this game, who has no IP interest in the first place. I don't even typically like the World War II sort of vibe in a lot of games in general. And this has completely and utterly won me over. So there you go. My thoughts on Sniper Elite as well as Operation Kraken. And you know what? As a side note here at the end, do you need the expansion? No, you don't need the expansion. It's going to give you more if you love what the base game is already offering you. You want a slight nuance of the different mechanical approach, but not adding rules as well. So it's just adding elements in line with what you're already familiar with if you're familiar with the base game in the first place. And it's going to be a slight increase in complexity, just so ever slight. So also, if it was too simple for you in the first place, this might be just a nice whipped cream and cherry on top for you as a whole. There you go. They sent it to me. I'm talking about it. Have a great freaking day. Subscribe. Patreon me up. Peace out.